was without doubt the shrine that contained the canopic vessels, which is to say, the jars of miniature coffins with the inner organs of the king, which play such an important part of the embalming process because they are so absolutely necessary for life in the hereafter. Once we had made a sufficiently large opening, we stood before a golden wall. This wall revealed itself to be a richly decorated shrine, gilded all over, and around it in the chamber there was just enough room to edge our way through. The four walls of the chamber were decorated with wall paintings. We recognized among the scenes a funeral procession to the tomb, the king himself, and some deities of... We were extremely surprised by the enormous weight of the coffin. We laid thick planks on the sarcophagus so that we could place the coffin on them.
When we finally managed to lift up the lid, which was firmly stuck to the bottom half of the residence, we found a third coffin.
It was made of solid gold, and that was the reason for its enormous weight. Was as radiant as if it had just come out of the workshop. This golden image of the pharaoh was the lid of the first mummiform coffin, which completely filled the stone sarcophagus. Because of its size, we surmised that it was the outermost one of a series of coffins, the innermost of which enclosed the mortal remains of the king.
And that's how it was. There were three coffins, each one resting inside another. You see them now before you. As we set them up beside each other, each of them fitted precisely into the next.
These coffins are images of the sun's golden radiance, while at the same time being protective casings for the corpse, as well as imperishable substitute bodies. Each coffin lid shows an idealized image of the king. He is wrapped in a feathered robe, his brow adorned with a vulture and cobra, the heraldic goddesses of the two. Nevertheless, the coffins differ from each other. On the gilded outer coffin, the king wears a tripartite wig under a headcloth. He is already depicted as a god here.
We even found withered flowers in the coffins, which had been given to the dead king more than 3,000 years ago for his journey into the afterlife, a parting gift from a young widow to her beloved husband, who was one of...
For 3,000 years, the black, jackal-headed god Anubis lay with his silver claws, like a silent guardian on a gilded lid, and kept watch over the entrance to the treasury of King Tutankhamun. Behind Anubis, Howard Carter found a gilded sculpture of the head of the celestial cow. Inside the chamber was the canopic shrine, containing the king's mummified viscera. gilded goddesses in tight-fitting pleated garments stand at the four sides between four inscribed posts. 2011, looters broke into the Egyptian Museum and destroyed two of these priceless statues. Here in this exhibition, you can see these two figures as they once were. Some dark, black shrines and boxes were stacked all along the south wall of the treasury. At first, Carter and his team could not imagine what they might hold. With barely contained excitement, they opened one after the other. Each box held one or more figures made from gilded wood and wrapped in a piece of linen. There were 34 in total. 27 of these little statues represent gods. The remaining 7 bear the king's likeness. Images on the walls of the tomb of Seti II showing royal figures painted in yellow prove that this arrangement was common. But why were these statues placed in the tomb? And what is their significance for what was supposed to happen there and at the resurrection?
According to the Egyptian ideology of rulers, he is always depicted as a victorious king and commander. That is why his tomb was equipped with all necessary weapons, all beautifully decorated and of the highest quality.
The most important responsibility of the pharaoh was to maintain the connection with the gods, but he also had many other responsibilities. One of these consisted of protecting the country from external and internal enemies and guaranteeing stability. That handled. Otherwise, they would not have fit in the tomb.
Among them, they included this magnificent state chariot of the king, richly decorated and overlaid with gold. The frame or chassis of the chariot is made from pieces of bent wood, and the wood of the cockpit is overlaid with gold. A precisely woven mesh of leather thongs makes a kind of suspension out of the floor. On the inside, you can see captured enemy warriors in chains. On both sides of the frieze, the king, this time represented as a sphinx, tramples down a prisoner.
In this gilded chariot, the young insignias of power, the scepters, they empower the king to act in the responsible office of pharaoh and to communicate with the gods. As a result, the king has divine forces in the eyes of his subjects. Of all the scepters, the crook and flail are the most familiar symbols of the pharaoh's power as the highest guardian of humanity. The crook is an ancient symbol of shepherds, which identifies the king as the supreme guardian of mankind. Even today, it is also the emblem of Christian bishops and popes. The flail might once have been a whip to drive cattle, or perhaps a fly whisk. No mortal could ever have touched these insignia. The supernatural energy they contained would have killed any human immediately. Only the pharaoh was able to handle it, for he was the living God on earth.
Yes, and even his
베트남 가야 돼 가려면.